Hello, everybody. This is Sheldon Lads, and today we are gonna discuss if we are selfish or altruistic. What are you? Are you more selfish or more altruistic? And I'm also here with
Hendrik. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. So to get the elephant out of the room, this is going to be my last episode as a host of Coffee Weekly podcast. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about it. But first of all, we're also here with
Otto. Hello. I'm currently in my children's room. Isn't that kind of fun? But I love this topic, being altruistic or selfish. At the end, it's maybe kind of something both or something in between. And yes, very, very sad that Hendrik is leaving us. But no worries, you can be a guest every week. It can be the same. It's joking. All right, but do you want to kick it off, Sheldon?
Yeah, so basically, I was actually looking at our notes here and being a little bit nostalgic with the beginning of the project and looking at our first initial discussions. But we can maybe start with the definition. So being selfish usually is a trait attached to a person that only thinks about themselves, or at the very last, they think about themselves first and then the rest of the people later. And altruistic is usually someone that thinks about other people always and put other people first and themselves later. And you can think about like those famous people, like, I don't know, like great leaders, yeah, I was trying to come up with a name, but I didn't remember a very good example of being altruistic, but I think you got the idea. So what do you guys think? Like, let's think about on a general basis, and then if we come up with a scenario, then we can explore. But on a general basis, are you more selfish or more altruistic? Maybe Otto, you can start.
I find it actually a very, I mean, personal, but also very broadly applicable topic, because I'm kind of convinced that all humans, our motives are egoistic or selfish in that sense, you would say. It's because, not that it's like a bad thing, but if we see it is a benefit for us and our environment that we are in, and that we will benefit in some or the other by helping others, then I think ultimately the motive is still selfish. But it sounds like so bad because, oh, I'm just thinking that I get more forward and it's better. I don't really think that's the right angle to take. It's more like it is in our interest to be altruistic. It is in our interest to do something for others, not only like with the expectation, oh, I will get it back at some point, but because you create an environment where you change the environment that you're in to a more positive nature. And yeah, by that, I would say it's kind of both. I mean, I wouldn't really say I'm only altruistic. I wouldn't really say I'm only selfish. I do tend to be very generous, inviting people, being very outgoing. And I don't know, if I meet a stranger or some new person and I have the feeling they have a good intention, I don't mind giving or like inviting them to whatever the things I would usually do with friends only, and just, give them the trust unless stated otherwise. And of course, if people break the trust, that's a pretty easy way to sort people out. But yeah, I would say somewhere it's both. I don't know. That's the way I see it. What about you, Hendrik?
So I'm actually totally in with you. I love that you brought up already being altruistic is not just being purely altruistic in most of the cases. I think we really grew as humans in that way, that we fight for survival as basically every other species. And so it's so deeply connected to us. And I agree with the point that you say, like, all right, helping my environment is probably also going to help me in some way, or my children or my offspring or whatever. Because also, like, there is this law, like, if I do something good for you, something good will happen to me back. So yeah, I don't think like pure altruism exists, but on the other hand, some forms of there are there. So if you're doing something good, probably it's split up. Like maybe some parts are really okay, I will just want to be a good person, and some parts are like maybe even subconsciously, even if you don't know it, all right, I'm gonna have some benefit in some kind of form of that. I mean, even Jeff Bezos announced a few days ago that he's gonna spend the most of his fortune for charity, which is kind of new. Like his wife, who basically got half of the Amazon stocks, so she was like, I think, the richest billionaire female, which is funny because she got like that through divorce. But yeah, like she was donating already a lot of money since multiple years, and now like also like he announced like, all right, I'm gonna spend most of my fortune like on charities. Yeah, so like even these people, like you could say like, all right, they don't need the money, of course, and they will still have more money than they would ever need, and probably they will not directly benefit from that. Like their house is not going to change, like their direct environment is not going to change, but in the end it's probably just a good feeling that you get, and the feeling that you do the right thing and finding peace with yourself. So yeah, it's anyways helping a lot of people. It's a great thing to do. But yeah, that's when I want to pass the mic over to Sheldon.
Yeah, when you were mentioning about the like Jeff Bezos and billionaires or in general, I was thinking that this could be a topic for another episode, like talking about just about the existence of billionaires and how ethical this is or not. I think this is a topic for a broad conversation, and I'm already exposing my side on this discussion. But anyway, I think both traits are present on on us as human beings. And for example, like if you're I'm just like projecting a caveman like hundreds of thousands of years ago, and you have to protect yourself from the dangers. So this idea of, oh, I have to save myself, and then creating this idea of the ego of like of your being, and you are the utmost person to take care of yourself. I think this is kind of like natural. But what is also natural is that we belong. We are as like a community being, like the human being. We pretty much needs to learn to live as a society. So living as a society, you have to have some you have to be prone to help others, because that's more or less how the society is built. Like you have to have some collaborative work in order to grow the society. So at the end of the day, you have to have a little bit of both. But I do see a lot of people having more of one or more of the other, and I also see that this can be influenced by a lot of things, because our behavior can be dictated by our genes a little bit, but can also be dictated, or mostly, in my opinion, be dictated by how we live, where we live, what society we live. And I'm going to give you an example. The United States is a very famous country, and they are a very famous country for being individualists first. Like, so they nailed down the freedom to the individual. They nailed all the responsibilities to the individual. So there is a lot of individualism, like the individual come first. And then other societies going more towards the social help or socialism, like the north of Europe, for example, and some other parts of Europe. You see more of this thinking of society. And like, for example, oh, you are going to have this social program for other people. This is kind of like altruistic behavior. So at the end of the day, like, you have a little bit of both, and it depends on the society, and it can be can involve politics, and can involve your other influences, media, what type of things that you consume as a content. So yeah, I think I'm going too broad. Maybe Otto have something to bring us down to.
I mean, I like the level of view we're taking here, because I think the effects of being selfish for the altruistic, they happen both on very big societal or like country levels, but also on individual levels. And yeah, I mean, I can maybe chip into the part of Northern Europe, living in Sweden since oh, I think it's 3 years, maybe actually today or something. I have to check it. Wow. Fun fact. But yeah, there's one very important thing I see is I would say Swedish people, I mean, this is very generalized, obviously, but people mostly think what is best for them in some way, but the way of doing it is always by making sure the whole group, everyone in the group can get what they need, what they want, and everyone makes sure that this actually happens. So it's kind of like weird to say because it's neither altruistic nor selfish, because let's say like the social security system in that sense. I mean, I pay a lot of taxes, but I'm very much wanting to do that because if something happens to me, I know the state will cover for any medical fuck ups that will happen to me. So this is more like, yeah, I kind of want to do that. It's not like, oh, I pay everyone else's healthcare. This is so great. This is not really my thought, at least, or I don't know if it's really the thought of the other people, but it's just that over decades and centuries, that this mindset has come to a point that people really see, yes, it makes sense to prioritize the well-being of the group for one's own sake because you're part of the group. So it's maybe it's like when you take the opposite. I mean, I've been in New York with also Shannon's been there in September for quite some time, and I was just like so. I mean, it's not that I've never been there, but just like having the contrast a bit more precise right in front of me, I was like, wow, this is. I mean, you can have a good life there. You can make a lot of money. You can have fun, have whatever. But it was so crazy to see the huge contrast between poor and rich. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's some kind of, not really prisoner's dilemma, but so that meaning that if you have multiple people that, they would all retrieve a higher outcome if everyone pitches in for the group, everyone would receive a better benefit. But if one person rats out the other one, they would get a much higher reward. And this, I feel, is kind of the outcome. If you're being more altruistic, you can kind of freeze the prisoner's dilemma and everyone will benefit. But as soon as there is a large enough group of people that are not happy with the system, that are taking more than they give, then this whole concept kind of collapses. And we really don't get as much benefits from collaboration with other people than if we jump for the leap. And maybe one thing I can add, I see Germany somewhere in between. It's very, very simplified everything, but I just, for the sake of this argument, bear with me. I see Germany, for example, as a country that is very, very efficient. It's a very good life. You have everything you need. You have a good economy. You have jobs. You have infrastructure, blah, 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 healthcare. It's good, But on a personal level, I think it's very hard to be altruistic in Germany because you don't really get that much back. And I mean, in some environments and friend groups, you might get, you have helpful people and everything. But when it comes to authorities, when it comes to companies, I mean, pretty much, hard to say it, but you will be the idiot if you are too altruistic. And this kind of causes everyone, yeah, well, then why should I help others if I don't get anything back? And this kind of on a broad level kind of reduces the whole outcome, how you actually feel as an individual at the end of the day. And this is not something, I mean, you can be an example. You can be like, okay, I know good things will come back, and they will. If you're altruistic, trust me, in my biased experience, but it's always good. You will feel better as well. Things will come back. You have to sort out, of course, sources that just take from you, they don't give anything back. But on a friends, family, person level, there's a very high chance you will get things back. So this is where I see it. If I try to place it in countries and your experience being there or living there. But now I think we've talked enough about this. So what do you think, Hendrik?
Yeah, I want to pick up from Sheldon. So there's actually this theory that countries developed this kind of behavior like individualism versus being like more a society-oriented culture by like some geographical influence. So we know, for example, from the Asian countries that they are way more like, let's say, social or for their culture and like for the society. They give up personal rights for the security of the country, for the other people. So basically they value these things very different from our Western culture. And like there is one theory, we don't know if it's true or not, but that said basically like it depends a lot on the geography of the country, of the area, how the culture developed. So basically if you have a flat land, flat country, then the kingdoms that were basically ruling most of the society's lives, they could easily manage and like they could easily control the society. So like the king could have easily influence on all people. And then on the other hand, like if you have a lot of mountains, a lot of rivers, which makes it hard to control a country, then this supports countries being more individualistic. So people had to take care more of themselves. They had to go less with the society, but more on their own. And that's basically one theory why some areas develop that way and some areas develop the other way. So I actually wanted to bring that knowledge here in because I think that's a super cool thought. And yeah, on the other hand, I want to make it a bit more personal, like being altruistic versus being egocentric. Yeah, let's directly speak about like why I'm gonna leave this podcast. So, and let's start maybe from the beginning on how this got here. So, Otto was actually visiting me here in Berlin and said like, okay, we have like this call every week. Let's make it a podcast and just release it. And I was like first I was like, okay, yeah, let's see. So. And that's basically when I started with it. He also brought Sheldon in, so it was a pleasure for me to have all these episodes with the two guys. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. We had so good conversations every time, and I think we did something very cool. It was now 20 episodes, which is quite a lot, I have to say. It's not like we gave up early or I gave up early or something like that. But in the end, what mattered for me, like on the one hand, I just didn't catch it so much, like the responsibility that you have, like and that's where the most important point is. I have to compare it against my other priorities. So that's where I have to say like, all right, am I gonna be altruistic and join the group for the sake of being in the group and supporting the other guys, or do I put my own priorities higher and I say like, all right, I have like some goals in my life and I want to go all in and I want to free up every resource that I have to achieve those goals. So this is basically the two standards. And in the long term, I think it doesn't to be altruistic in that case, because if I get like up just to help the other guys, like longer, it's been already quite a while and I've been thinking about that quite a while also. So I've not been in a rush with this decision. Then at some point of time, I'm just going to lose the mood. I'm not going to be a good producer anymore. I'm not going to bring good content anymore. I was already being super low effort on this podcast from the start. And I would also have a bad feeling for Sheldon and Otto, who are doing a lot more for this podcast than me. And I think this would create an imbalance in, yeah, like, I don't know, in the way we feel about this podcast in the long run. And I think that's not a good thing. I'm not going to help anyone with that. And that's where I thought, okay, it's better if I'm being transparent and take a look at my real feelings. And I think everyone is going to be even better off that in the long run. Everything else, like what's up next with the podcast, is going to be up to Otto and Sheldon. But like, yeah, what's up next for me is going to be a few years at least where I'm going to very intense on the things I do. So the first big thing is like I'm writing software in my free time. So it's one side, on the one hand, it's my job, but on the other hand, I'm writing applications in my free time. So right now I'm writing a newspaper reader, which is called Findus. I call it the social newspaper. So basically it's an aggregator for news articles, like, you know, from other platforms like Google News or Apple News or something like that. But I want to mix it like with some recommendation catalogs, like Spotify does it, and then like some social features like following or commenting, like, you know, from Reddit. So yeah, I want to make it a more social experience with also better browsing options, and I want to see how good of a product I can make that idea. Right now, I'm kind of in a prototype stage, somewhere between prototype and version 1. I'm pushing out, for example, my first neural network as a recommendation engine, or as the core of the recommendation engine. So that's, for me personally, some super cool stuff going on right there. I've never done that in a production environment, and I'm super excited for these topics right now. And on the other hand, I also have a music channel where I'm making rap. So it's called Constant Change. You can find me there in my rapper name, Sir Anyhow. And yes, I have, like, for example, a music video shoot tomorrow again. This was basically just for a small project. It was like, again, like 2 weeks of preparation for just 1 day of shooting, like making the song, producing it, finding a video producer. And yeah, like I have released one nice video like some time ago, and it instantly popped like to the top of my views on my channel. It's like at 180 views or something like that. And I see like this is the way to go, and this is basically what reaches the people. This is what has an impact in my life if I take these steps. And yeah, basically the decision being selfish here is just setting the priorities. And again, I told, like, being altruistic would not work for me in the long run, and I think it would also not increase the overall value for the group. So yeah, that's it for this for me. I don't know where the guys want to pick up. Like, Sheldon, maybe something's on your mind where you want to pick it up and make it personal.
No, thanks. Thanks for shifting the subject. I was planning to do that. I actually took some notes here to remind me of what I wanted to say. So I just want to close, like, have my closing thoughts on the subject before we come back to being personal. Because you mentioned about like the difference in cultures, and I also read once that cultures that are more individualistic, like for example the US, they tend to be more people tend to be more prone to donate to charity because they think they have more agency to help people, so they donate more to charity than people that are more like socialist or at least from the left, because those people think that it's the job of the government to help people, not like individual initiatives. So I found that interesting. And I also saw somewhere that some societies, I think these were more like tribes, like indigenous societies, they had this society structure where all kids were created by everyone. So the moral, the principles, the things that you learn as a kid, they are not being taught by just your parents in a more individualistic way, but rather from the whole society. So more so society thinking. But coming back to so then like different perspectives on being selfish or altruistic. But I want to finish with a question, and I would like to answer this question last. What do you think about this these projects, the Coffee Weekly podcast? Do you think doing this is being selfish or altruistic? So Otto, if you want to go first.
That's you're reading my mind, kind of, because that was the first thing I was so curious about. I mean, all in all, I 100% understand your decision, and I respect it. And I, even if I wouldn't understand it, this is just, I mean, this is your decision. This is fine. But I find it interesting that your perspective was that you are helping us, because then of course, like, this is then it's unnecessary work. We wake up early. It's this stuff. You have enough stuff to do, which then of course makes it altruistic because it's not for your own sake. And you to your question, Sheldon, I mean, the way I see it, I mean, I'm not doing this for you two guys. Sorry to break it to you, but I'm doing this for myself. I do this because, I mean, of course, we reach people. We can talk about concepts. Enjoy. My way is that I believe this is something that makes me feel good. It is fun. I somehow feel this is something good. Potentially, it's not, I don't know, some bad business model pushing ads in people's faces. Just talking about things. And the way of doing that is collaborating with others, which of course means that we have to upload some things and write some descriptions and do some things. But honestly, I also wouldn't say that you're doing much less than we do, because honestly, I don't think we do much at all. But yeah, I mean, so to summarize, yeah, I pretty much do this for being selfish through altruism, but maybe in the sense it's more collaboration rather. I mean, maybe there's a little pinch of altruism involved, like reaching people, and maybe, I went through some experiences in my life. They were good or bad. I learned from that, and maybe that's something that somebody can pick up from. They're like, oh, I see similar patterns. This guy fell on this face. Maybe there's something I can take away from that to not do the same mistake. Maybe not. Maybe those people think, oh, what an idiot. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much my view. What about you, Hendrik?
All right, cool. So I think overall, like this kind of projects in general, they should be both, to answer Sheldon's question. So they should be altruistic and also selfish. And that's, I think, where the sweet spot is for a good product or whatever. So we are doing on the one side ourselves a favor, let it be like taking care of our emotional side and talking through some things, and on the other hand, building up some influence probably. And on the other hand, it should also help people. So people probably like to listen to this. I know we have some listeners and probably they enjoy listening to this. So they feel connected, they feel understood, or they can learn something. And I think that's where the sweet spot is. I also try to do that with my music. I know there are some music people like that I do, and there are some music people don't like I do. And I know like what some people want to hear. So I try for the things that I release to pick what I both like and what the people like. And the stuff that I just personally like, I can do that, but I don't have to release it. I don't have to make it professional. But yeah, I think that's where really the sweet spot for business is. Like, what am I enjoying? What's creating value for people? And that's like the foundation for very good success. Sheldon, you want to say something more because you started your final words for today? Or...
Yeah. No, so I just wanted to hear other opinions before I said mine, because for me, this was very clear from the beginning, as Otto said, this and some other things that I do, they look very altruistic on the front, but at the end of the day, they're selfish. Like, for example, I love to teach. I love to teach other people. I give free advice all the time. So far, nobody punched me on the face, so I think it's okay. But I like to teach people. Like, if I know something and the other person is seeking for that knowledge, I'm going to give it. And this is usually seen as an altruistic thing, like you giving knowledge to others for free, kind of. But I do this because I like when I see the face of the person like changing when they understand the new subject or when they acquire the new knowledge. And I was the one providing it. This is for me very pleasant. So at the end of the day, like, if you uncover the layers, you're going to find selfish or egocentrism at the end of like at the very bottom. But of course, like the outcome is altruistic. Like, we are doing this for free, for helping others, making the content available online with no big with no big projections or anything. So that's more or less how I think. So yeah, I think this is pretty much it for this episode. I want to say thanks and nice to meet Hendrik. We met through the podcast and it was really nice. I hope to see you in person eventually, and you're always welcome to come back as a just a person coming back, I guess. Yeah, I think the words are coming out of my head today. And yeah, and I don't know.
Have prepared something.
What's the future of this podcast? Are you going to continue just the both of us, Otto?
We will see. But Hendrik, you were saying something.
Yeah.
No, like maybe also you have like 1 minute and 20 seconds for your closing words, and then I'll take the last minute.
Yeah, I mean, I knew from the very first time where we were sitting on the balcony that this was more a push from my side, and I realized that, yeah, you were having fun with it and you got something out of it, but I still do appreciate all your input, your views, and also taking the time that we wake up early every morning, and we kind of been skipping our private, just having a chat over random shit. We kind of replaced that with having the podcast. So I really appreciate just taking, your time and I mean, I know you have much to do, but this is something you gave to us. Maybe it was altruistic, and I can really accept that. And thank you so much. And I wish you all the best for going forward.
Thanks so much, guys. So time is nearly over, so I have to hurry up a bit. I loved being part of this podcast. Don't get me wrong. We had so good talks, man. I love to meet you, Sheldon. We will see each other on Christmas, actually, I think. And I'm so excited to see you in person. And like, we can probably have some more private talks there and talk about all this. But yeah, Otto asked me actually to prepare something. I've written like 16 bars, and without a beat, I'm just gonna spit it out right now. And I think that's gonna wrap up this episode.
Let's do it.
And yeah, Let's fucking go. All right. Freedom of speech, liberty of mind. Hang on, brothers, in the daily grind. Hang in, sisters, in the daily fight. Life's a competition, it is greatly prized. Who are we? Some matter in the universe, no bigger purpose. Taking it humorous, the struggles we face. Let me count the numerous, one day it's over. See you at the funeral, dealing with the setbacks. Fighting the jet lags, sending out some Snapchats, spotting out some red flags, bringing in the traffic, search me by the hashtags. All I wanna do is chillin' in my sweatpants. This is my tune out, anyhow over. This generation taking over from the browser, spitting my rhymes. I'm a rap god, making god rap tuning every week for Coffee Weekly podcast. All right, everybody. Thanks. Have a good day, and see you later, nerd.